Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. You're live with your host, most John, and
Lifika, aka Chow Stacks, Chow Honey, Feek Day, Feek Daddy, what it do, what it does.
And we got a very exclusive, exciting down to the beat interview coming at you live right now with KwanLi Beats, the man.
Thank you, guys. Round of applause.
Keep it down, guys. Keep it down.
Round of applause.
Where are you tuning in from, man?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio. Yes, sir.
That's cool. That's cool. So how long have you been at this in Columbus, Ohio?
How long have I been at this in Columbus?
Yeah, how long have you been producing for?
I would say I seriously got into it when I was 17. I'm 21 now, so I would say that's 4 years. So about 4 years.
You're from Columbus, you're born and raised there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's crazy because we have one of our big cities where we get a lot of listens is Columbus.
Yeah.
And we don't understand why. So we just want to know, what's the music scene like there?
Me personally, I see a lot of indie rock pop. There's a really healthy hip hop scene here. We're just now starting to get like hip hop beat shows going. It was really a big EDM town for a minute. But it's a few of us who are, in the tradition of doing this hip hop thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with KMB, but he's also from here and he does a lot of I would say disco tinged hip hop, poppier stuff. So it's a really diverse town as far as the arts. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Your sound, we'll get into this later, but you have a very diverse sound. You're a bit of a shapeshifter when it comes to sounds. Sound shifter, I guess, would be the right way to say that. But first of all, we're just going to talk a little bit more about you and just kind of expand on that, how you got started. Mm-hmm. So what was it that really drove you into music? What is it that got you with your hands on a keyboard, starting to produce tracks or make beats too?
Trying to rap with no money. I was rapping since middle school and I got considerably good. And then I was in high school and, I didn't have enough money to consistently pay for production. So I was listening to a lot of Mac Miller, a lot of Tyler, and they do a lot of their own production. So I'm like, all right, they can do it, I can do it. So I downloaded a cracked version of FL my senior year of high school, and I pretty much never looked back. It's been a really crazy journey. I never thought that I would be doing beats primarily.
No, did you think you were gonna be a rapper?
Yeah, for the longest, but it's only recently that I'm like, yeah, I probably, I think production is more of my calling.
Word. But yo, man, we've seen you on your gram drop some of your freestyles, bro. You still bring it. You really bring it, bro. Now that you mentioned that, I even think in one of your songs, you mentioned that you dropped out of school and stuff, just in your freestyles and stuff. So, how's that journey been in terms of, was it dealing with music, choosing what your passion is or something like that?
I dropped college courses. Yes. It was a thing to where in high school, I got introduced to college courses and it was more of a credit thing, a head start into college. And it was basically like high school, just more structured, I would say. And my attitude towards high school, it wasn't really a good one. So when I graduated high school, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this college thing. It's it was there for me, but it just wasn't, for me personally.
100%. So it's almost like you already knew what your calling was almost.
Oh yeah, I knew. Yeah.
Did you have to explain that to your mom?
At first, but then she heard my music and then she began to see where I was coming from. Yeah. So that was crazy too, because it was crazy getting through that stigma of being an artist, in school, definitely. telling people like, I'm going to do music, and they looking at you like, okay,
Yeah.
get in line. You know what I mean?
Get in line. How'd you battle through that?
A lot of the music I was listening to, a lot of Kanye, a lot of Cudi, and just a lot of self-determination. The love for the music. I think that's what got me through a lot of it. Just genuinely loving the process of creating, um, and falling in love with doing different genres and things. That is what keeps me going and what kept me going.
100%, man, because we even see like, just how when you tweet and stuff, you know how confident you are, your time is coming, the breakthrough, like you just got the confidence and you believe in yourself, and that's like the biggest thing.
It's beautiful to see.
Yeah,
it's beautiful to see, because I feel like that's where a lot of young artists or young producers coming up, like I feel like that, like they can waver on that thought of whether or not they're good enough, or whether or not this game, if they're cut out for the game that they're trying to get into, right? But whenever it seems like you put stuff out, you got your whole heart in it, and you're really just, I don't know, it's humble, yet it's very it's not like you're full of yourself, but like you're humble at the same time. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it's just my nature, honestly. Like I'm not too extravagant, but at the same time, I know what I can contribute to, music.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, whether I was getting like 100 views or 10 views or like the millions of views, or whatever was happening and going viral, it's just the same attitude, really. Just really being confident in what I'm doing. I think I built it up also definitely through the work ethic, like getting myself to a point where I'm wowing myself with what I create like every time. And it did take me like the years to get to that point. Um, and looking back, it seems like it was a long time, but it really hasn't been to where I am now.
4 years is a short amount of time, man, to be like
Yeah.
sitting there and like kind of just proud of what you've accomplished, like happy with what you can do with your hands. You know what I mean? Like, you sit down at any computer, you can come out of there with something that you like. I think that's a beautiful thing all on its own.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
It also just makes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just makes sense though, man. Like you've been doing this for 4 years, and like you've just been getting better and better, man. Like I remember hearing, like I wasn't tapped into you like from day one, but like I still remember hearing the first ever Fresh Produce, bro, and jamming to that shit. And then just seeing the different volumes go, you know what I mean? Like, and seeing you incorporate the samples, man. I know you love the way you flip samples just amazes me, bro. Like, and I love it how in the end of your songs, like in Fresh Produce, you just show a little sneak peek of the sample you use, like you're so at the end sometimes, like this is a Janae song, you'll be like, damn, he flipped that song into this. Like, you're very talented, man. The 4 years can definitely tell, like it's the growth and everything, bro.
From put it back in your pants first. But what are your 4 years? You have a lot to show for it. Like you've really honed in on your talents. But what can the next 4 years kind of like? What do you think they're going to look like?
I'll never know what they're going to look like specifically, but I do have affirmations and goals. Like I do want to work with like Chloe and Holly. I want to work with like Freddie Gibbs. So it's a really diverse list. Like my main influences are like Pharrell and Kanye, Dilla, Premier, and they always made sure that they stepped outside of hip hop to do R&B, to do pop, and that's definitely the route that I want to take. Just definitely diversifying my sound, and yeah, definitely just the main thing for me really is just working with these artists and getting the respect from the artists that I look up to, which has been a gradual process. I'm still receiving those flowers, but it's just that's what the next 4 years for me I think look like. Definitely stepping into the game on an official level.
And we can see that too in the sense that you post the type of music you're listening to. You listen to the Rihanna album, to Janae Eiko, to Doja Cat. Like it just shows the level of diversity on what you're trying to produce for artists. You know what I'm saying? Like,
how important do you think that diversification of your like kind of for your skills is to you?
It's very important. For one, it keeps me not in a beat block state. Um, I feel like when you like try to make the same hip hop for a while, it gets redundant. So for me, it's imperative that I listen to different things, soak up different things. Because if I'm not making hip hop, I'm definitely making something else. Like I feel like my creativity is like a spectrum. And if I stay on one part, it's like it's super boring for me.
Mm.
Another reason I would say is because I don't want to be put in a box as an artist. You know what I mean? I definitely want to work with everybody who I listen to. And, you know, I internalize their production and everything, and I apply that to myself. So when I do get in these rooms, I'll have a lot to play these artists, a lot of different things, you know, a lot of different sounds.
Do you think the large picture that is hip hop right now? Do you think that that's a rather two-dimensional picture?
Underground rap, I would say. I do notice when I do rap flips, it gets a better reception than when I do like R&B flips.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really like in the underground community, like you know, like King Thelonious, you know,
Oh, bro.
Zane, Obliv, like,
Oh
you know,
yeah, man. We
so
sorry.
I'm yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off. I'm just so excited.
Oh
I was
yeah.
just about to say, like, I even saw you, like, I think you and Obliv did something together, correct?
Oh yeah, we got some work, man. I
That's
send them
amazing, bro.
all the time. And even that was such a crazy thing because that was during a time when I really felt slept on. And for him to be on the level that he is and reach out and work with me, like that was everything for me. That also kept me going. Like maybe this is something that I should, you know, take seriously,
I
you
was
know.
we're gonna ask. You put in like you're really grinding for them 10,000 hours. Like you can kind of you hear that in your music.
Mhm.
Do you? And you just said you at one point in time felt slept on. Is that something that you feel more often than not? Because you do a lot of work and you do a lot of flips for a lot of famous artists. Like, does it ever just like hurt that you're not really getting the recognition for it, or they're not like sending the love back? You know what I mean?
Um, yes and no, because what last year showed me, like, it kind of showed me how the Twitter algorithm worked. I started wording my tweets in a way that were like memifying it, but it ended up really catching on. So I know that like the music, when they hear it, they'll be wowed by it. But I think the whole part of this game is really getting to those artists. So when you think of something like social media, you know, there's like so much content being posted like every second. So for me, I do think honestly I get an advantage that some of these beat makers don't because I do diversify my sound and I diversify the flips and it has that star power with it. But when they hear the music with it, they're like, oh shit. And that's what's been starting to work for me just recently, like it's a few months back, honestly. Like I really got like I got like okay, so in these 4 years, the past 3 months is when I really been going viral. So
Yeah.
in a sense, like it's paying off definitely. So I don't feel slept on anymore. And also I don't want to affirm that I'm slept on. I don't want to affirm that people don't support me because in my mind, like people will support me, you know, people will get to that point, you know, and I'm just aware that things take time, you know, definitely.
That's dope because I feel like that could be a very hard thing for a lot of people. Like even ourselves in this business, right? We're just starting out, but it's easy to be like, we're creating great content. Why are we not getting millions of views? Like, why are we not going viral yet? So, but it's the mentality, right, of just keeping pushing forward to make sure that you are staying true to yourself and saying,
Mhm.
I can do this. I'm just as good as anyone else out here, if not better. But like you don't want to feel slept on because as soon as you say we're slept on, you're going to start going to sleep yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you also don't feel that way too, because you know you shoot your shot out on Twitter, man. You say I want to work with Mavi, and then Mavi hits back saying let's fucking get it, bro. You know what I mean? You got Not For Me following you. You got the underground scene really tapped into you, bro. And like
Yeah, man.
it's amazing, bro. Like
That's honestly humbling because the whole Mavi thing was crazy because it was overcast. I didn't know.
Overcast is also.
Yeah, man, overcast is crazy too. But I remember a time where I was hitting these guys up and I wasn't as known. And I was like, I would love your work. I would love to work with you. But then it wasn't until I proved myself that I could build my own platform that they're like, oh yeah, this is really so that kind of mentality stays with me. Like, even if people aren't hearing me now, when they do hear it, it's usually love. And um it was really humbling to see somebody on a statue like Mavi or even Overcast appreciate, me doing my thing. People like King Thelonious or the Danny Brown follow that I got, or like all these different things. It was just like, man, like this is crazy. Like, you pray for these things, you hope for these things, but when they really show up, it's like, holy shit, I did this. It's really freaky.
Do you ever get frustrated?
Um, uh, yes and no. Frustrated financially, yeah, because everybody thinks when you get a million views, you got like mad money and you're doing this and that. But I go through the everyday life. Like what Andre said in elevators, like I got more fans than the average man, but not enough loot to last me to the end of the week. That's basically how it is at my stage currently. Um, in that aspect, but as far as respect, as far as creativity, I feel like those aspects I have more control over, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And the money will come, it comes for me, but I don't make as much as everybody thinks. That's the frustrating part.
I feel like the hard part too, right? Is you like know your talents are good, so you want to get paid too, right? So you're kind of
Yeah,
just grinding for that, right?
yeah, definitely.
How do
But
you
also,
sorry.
oh no. But also I'm just aware of that, the respect also always comes before the money in anybody's career. A big thing for me is following my favorite artist careers. So I see where they were like broke and still having like hit records on the shelf that, like, so I look at it like that.
Respect is
That,
payment in its own, right?
oh yeah, I think in the grand scheme, it's the most important part of just inspiring people. That makes me feel a lot better than getting money, honestly.
That's fucking beautiful, man.
Yeah, dude,
you're a good guy.
Yeah, you have
man.
a great
you're
philosophy.
A fucking good guy, dude. This is all right. We're like 20 minutes in. This is already living up to way more than I thought it was gonna be.
And just like clear path. You know what I'm saying? It's beautiful, bro.
Dude, like sometimes when I smoke a joint, my answers would just be like way out in left field. I'd be freaking out. Like smoke some mad sativa, it'd be bad. But this is what we and just talking is supposed to happen. Like,
but yo, I even know I wanted to ask, other than your stuff being on Bandcamp and stuff, what else do you do for streams of revenue relating to your music? Like, do you offer beat lessons? Do you sell your beats, collab, charge people for the beats? How often are you?
Yeah, how much? Like, what are you doing to monetize it?
Definitely selling them. Being in the underground and having this sort of platform for myself. I've been getting like a lot of work from known and unknown acts. So like I support myself through that most of the time. Like most of my income is through beat sales, but also sometimes I would do a drum kit or Bandcamp is definitely a big thing also. But I'm also getting ready. Like I have a instrumental album finished, and I was thinking of marketing ways to monetize that. And I don't have any merch yet, but merch is definitely going to be one of those streams of revenue for me in the future. Physical records and things like that. Things that I think people are more interested in than just digital videos and digital music.
100%. Something physical.
Shit's played out too, right?
Oh yeah, and I feel like those things help you create your brand more, and who you are as a person. And I feel like my music can be for a specific demographic of people. So the way I dress, the way I present myself, definitely is a reflection of those people I want to reach. And I think with merch and physical albums and album art and things like that, that's gonna give people a true glimpse of like who I am, like outside of the music, you know.
Hmm.
And also to, monetize that, monetize the brand itself.
Yeah,
Definitely.
facts. Um, that's kind of cool that like just talking about your brand. What like if you could describe your brand, what would it be? Because you've been all over the place. If you were to ask me.
Um, oof. It's Yeah, I made it hard to put myself in a box, so now I can't really put myself in a box. But if I would label it as one thing, I would say space soul. Like
I like
very
that.
atmospheric, very dreamy. Um,
Yeah.
I'll have the soul sample chops in there, whatever, but it's always like I'm trying to put you in a different like mind frame, like almost psychedelic, when you get that feeling when you like when you're in your head on psychedelics, like the blissful feeling
Mhm.
that
Right.
I think music could bring is
Right.
where I try to go with a lot of it. Yeah.
That's a way better like because I don't know I've been into like the way your beats sound like I've been chasing just music with that kind of vibe to it, right? But I've just been
Mhm.
calling it lo-fi, but
Mhm.
I don't know if that means anything to you because
How do you take that?
the way that you describe it sounds so much better than what I just said. But that's all I've
I
ever
feel
known
like
it as.
I feel like a lot of underground people get a bit upset when you call their music like lo-fi.
I think because when you get into making music, you understand that lo-fi, it means like lo-fi has always existed throughout all genres for one. And for two, it just means that the record has a low fidelity recording, which means that the low end is more present than the high end. So it has more of a warm, fuzzy sound. And you could do that across all genres. But I feel like a lot of my stuff is mixed in a way where I'm trying to get the high end a little more. Like I'll have beats that don't even have bass lines,
Word.
um, to keep
Like,
it simple,
sorry, I'm
definitely.
just trying to remember this one song. Like, um, just a few classics, like the old Meek Mill song. I don't know if that has a bass line. It goes.
I definitely hear a lot of music with that, like From Time by Drake and Janae. Like that doesn't have a bass line at all. It's just a kick, a snap, and a melody. Like, and I think that the minimalism, like I have maximalist art where I have like electronic IDM shit,
Yeah.
but also I think it's so like simplicity goes such a long way, especially with
Facts.
MCs who are very talented and singers who are very talented. You give them room to breathe on a track, you know. Just small things I think about as a producer to make the song feel like a complete, thing. But I feel like with certain artists, they do well with lo-fi, like Earl Sweatshirt, like Mavi, like Mike, like Navy Blue, like you know, all these underground legends.
we
I think,
made we made a funny joke, and we like to call these underground artists, including yourself, because I love that scene, that underground scene, the whole Mike, Navy Blue, all that, Ade Hakeem, all that shit.
I
And
love all those things.
we always say that you only find those guys in like the Pornhub comments, bro. You know what I mean? That's how low key you guys are. You got to go to Pornhub comments, and then you'll find those names. Yo, Jam KwanLi, Jam.
Load more, and then you find it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy that I'm actually a part of underground hip hop. Like
How
coming
does
from
that
a
feel?
kid,
How does that feel?
like man, that feels so vindicating. Like coming from a kid listening to like Dilla, listening to like the Far Side, listening to like freestyle culture coming from that, and then being next to guys like Knowledge, like
Oh,
people compare me to not like people like putting me next to him, like people who I respect their musical opinion, drawing those comparisons or the Kanye comparisons, like um being a part of this whole music thing is just that in itself is more important than the money, I think. Honestly, like when we die, we don't take that money with us, but we leave that legacy behind and people cherish that. And to have a name for myself at this point is really just humbling. Like it makes me want to keep working hard. Like to be next to such talented people, like you always got to step your game up because knowledge is always dropping shit. Like
dude.
these people work extremely hard. So I definitely take that in myself. I don't take it lightly, you know, when people compare me to a Knowledge or a Kanye or, you know, anybody like that. It means a lot to me. And
So, sorry, sorry, I didn't mean
oh
to
no,
cut you
no, it's okay. You can I'm basically finished, yeah.
off. I was just gonna ask. So, like you consider yourself to be underground rap, and that's what I'd consider yourself as well. Um, are you interested in like making it to that mainstream level, or what's your thoughts on that? Because like
Definitely.
there's people who live their whole life being the underground rapper. You know what I mean? Like I didn't realize that West Side Gun was like 37 years old, but it turns out he is that old. And he's just like being this kind of slept on underground, like the most mainstream level an underground artist could be, you know? So I just kind of wonder what your take is on that, like where you kind of see your success going, or if you'd like to stay there.
Plus, also, we've seen on your social media how your goal in life is to get a Grammy. You know, so.
Yeah.
But like you can't be winning no Grammys as an underground artist. You know what I mean?
Also, fuck the Grammys, man.
And I think that's why I diversify my sound so much. Like that's why I put my beats over a Doja Cat or Mahalia, or you know, I put my beats over Rihanna, like because I want to prove that I can do like mainstream. But um I think everybody starts underground. Like you know, it's a gradual process. Amorphous, a guy who follows me, I was just talking to him about the whole concept of being viral. He's on Billboard now. He has a track with Fat Joe, and he's done that all off of mashups. So I think that I'm definitely starting to progress to that level of to where those artists are starting to notice me, like Billboard producers, you know. And with the sound that I have, it's not far fetched to me that I will end up there one day. And just yeah, I think that just staying with the trends and knowing that like, hey, I could do trap too, like, but it's gonna sound like me, you know. That's the most important. And yeah, I don't think the mainstream is intimidating, man. Like I think that these are my contemporaries at this point. Like I
So
look at them as equals, you know.
that's kind of cool because we were talking to we had an interview a while ago with a guy named Heavy. He's from here, from Ottawa, but he was talking about how he was making trap as an artist. Like he was like trying to like go for that Migos sound, right? But he's like, if people want to go listen to the Migos, they'll just go listen to the Migos, right? But I gotta say that where you differ is that you have a very unique spin on everything that you touch. How do you think you can, like, do you think that's something you'll be able to keep with you, or like breaking onto the mainstream could kind of make it an oversaturated vibe to the music, right?
Oh yeah. Yes. I think about that. I think about the fact that when I do these mainstream records, um, I see myself as kind of changing the trend. Like those are like the artists that I look my like I model after. So I noticed how the soul sound wasn't prominent until like Kanye hopped on it, and then everybody started doing that. But also with the trap thing, trap has become like his own subgenre with his own subgenres. So like you
Yeah.
can say trap, but there's so many different types of trap. Like you can look at what the Migos do, or what Travis does, or um what drill is. Like I think drill is really an offshoot of trap music.
Yeah, for sure.
Like music is evolving so much that I think that with mainstream specifically, there's starting to be room for everything. And you see, even with underground rap, Gibbs got a Grammy nom. You know, when Tyler got the Grammy nom and the Grammy win, K Tronada got the Grammy. You know, for Bubba
Two.
coming from SoundCloud. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah, bro.
big. When Chance got nominated for a Grammy, coming from SoundCloud, like coming from the underground. I think what what made them ascend to that mainstream level is the uniqueness, is the doing what everybody else is doing, but like them. So like you can't really box them into one thing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's important for me because I definitely don't want to be known as a producer who just does one type of music. You know, I want to be known as the guy you could come to for any type of record. You know, whether you're Christina Aguilera or a West Side Gun. Like I'm gonna have something for everybody, you know.
Um,
Because
do you
just because I listen to everything, you know, so that's
Word.
just my goal, you know.
um that's crazy because like I feel like there's two types of artists, you know, one that sticks to what they know, you know, and kind of just keep creating that sort of same sound, that same vibe, that same upholds that same image, right? But then you see a lot of other artists who undergo such drastic evolutions throughout their like span of their career.
Yeah.
Both work, but like they're both
Mhm.
very different streams. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
I think that I agree with you, man. They definitely both work. I think that that's a good ass question because you could look at somebody um like Snoop who you know came onto the scene with gangster rap, but he's really touched every genre, you know. But you
Man's
could
made a
also look
reggae
at,
album, bro.
yeah, man, like who could really say that they've done a gospel album in hip hop?
Facts.
Only, you know, like and really be acclaimed for that, you know, like so I think you can look at it that way or somebody like
Didn't he even do like a bedtime, like a nursery rhyme album or something?
yeah,
Like didn't
I
he do like a
feel
kids album or something?
yeah, I've heard that. I man, I wouldn't be surprised if he came out with a polka album. Like
Literally.
yeah, he's
Snoop's in
really
his bag.
I think that's why he's such a brand too, because like he's recognizable from so many different cultures. Like he could go in a predominantly white neighborhood and they're like, oh, that's Snoop. But he could come to the hood and, you know, that's, you know, what's up, Snoop? Like,
Mhm.
so I think that's definitely cool too, you know. But you could look at somebody like Freddie Gibbs who has that hardcore cocaine rap
Yeah.
style or like Pusha T, and they're still respected, you know what I'm saying? They still get their flowers. I think I think it's just a personal thing. I just can't see myself doing the same thing over, but I really think it's something when somebody can expound on one thing and make it sound interesting every time. It's two different sets of skills that are very, very, very I would say difficult in its own right, you know, and they have their own successes, you know.
This whole thing is difficult, you know, on its own. You know what I mean?
It's that
Like,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship life, you know?
um, you were
To
going
the
off.
industry.
You were going off recently on the idea of cocaine rap on Twitter. What are you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I think
Yeah,
like right now I think there's like almost not a resurgence of it, but you know when you think of the underground sound, I think like that's the one kind of sound that comes to your mind, right? Is that gritty cocaine kitchen
Griselda.
stove type rap, right?
Griselda. Griselda.
Literally, yeah.
My personal take on it, I don't want to like knock anybody for how they create. I just want to create the dialogue of, you know, we lost a legend yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rest in
the
peace.
African American community, you know, the crack epidemic was so detrimental that we still have people dying of it. You know, people that should still be here with us, celebrating with us. And I'm like, at what point does it stop being like at one point do we stop glorifying it? You know, because I like people like Freddie Gibbs who could be vulnerable, like, and tell you like, I don't want to do this cocaine shit, but still be like, I did that cocaine shit. You know, I did that shit. But, you know, he's making it clear that that shit wasn't the life that you should be living. But I do
Right.
feel like there are artists who glorify hustle culture, glorify gangbang culture, and all the negative stereotypes that come with our people. And my whole thing on it is like, we definitely have to stop being victims and look at where we're the fault at this because the music is so influential that it's creating these images that these young kids who don't have strong parental figures to model after. And a lot of the shit that's getting spewed out is not um you know, I don't want to sound too preachy, but it's not really
Yeah, it's facts, bro.
It's fast and it's
like, there's a way that you could put it without it being cool or trying to make it sound cool to be a drug dealer or be in the streets. You know what I'm saying? You could be vulnerable at the same time, be true about your experience. You know what I mean?
I think just on that's almost what hip hop was rooted in, right? Like Easy
Yeah.
E, like that's where like that was his whole thing, right? He was drug dealer turned rapper, right? So, and I think
Uh-huh.
over the course of history, you know, that was what it was rooted in, was really giving a voice to the neighborhoods that weren't given voices before, right? So it's kind
Definitely.
of being hip hop's kind of being entrenched in this whole idea that the come from nothing kind of idea, right? But
Mhm.
now it kind of gets, you have to question when they get to a point where they're buying a new car every week and living in houses that they never could have imagined. Like where do you stop glorifying it? Because you're right, now we've come to a like
That's
kind of
true.
point in it where we're better than that almost, you know.
I,
Um,
I also think that like it's not necessarily as um,
Glorified.
glorified as it used to be. You
No,
know,
that's
it's
that's very true.
definitely you know, even like drinking lean and stuff. It's not really the go-to verse anymore.
oh,
You
that was
know.
2016 shit. Don't stop
Yeah,
Vibe
you
it.
that was though. What a vibe that
know.
was.
That was
Um,
horrible.
when
But I feel what you're saying.
when
Oh, yeah.
I want to just ask now about, because I feel like now in hip hop you have such a diverse like people always want to talk about Mac Miller for really being the first to open up about his mental health and just health struggles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now mental health and just like personal wellness is such a is almost on a megaphone right now in hip hop culture. I want
Oh,
to know
definitely.
what's your thought on that, like in the kind of shift of
First of
moods.
all, Faces came to me at a point where I really needed it.
Bro, I feel
Oh,
that album,
oh my God.
fucking man,
Yeah.
Mac
Like,
Miller. When people say Mac Miller saved me, I'm like, yeah, like pretty close too. You know what I mean? Like I'm up there, bro.
definitely, man. Like that's definitely a beautiful body of work. And it came to me when I was, I didn't know what depression was until, I got to school and I started having problems in school and social issues and like self-harm issues that I got diagnosed with like anxiety and depression and stuff. So that tape came during that. And the thing I appreciated about that tape was that, he was open. It was at a time where drugs were on the forefront, but it was different because
It was real.
it was a cautionary tale. Like he was not like there was nothing pretty on the album. Like
Mm-mm.
it was super dark, jazzy, super poetic. Like I imagine him like in the studio like for months, just like trying to get this out, drugged up. Like, but it was a real expression of what he was going through, and it made me realize that rich or poor or whatever you are money wise, like we're connected as humans on what we feel emotionally. And I found myself relating to a rich white rapper as a poor Black man. You know what I'm saying? And he
Wow.
touched
Yeah.
me in a way that a lot of artists didn't touch me, just because he was so honest. Like, and that's what I appreciated about that. And I really appreciate the resurgence of well, not the resurgence, but the surgence of this talk on mental health, because it's really important. It's really people are being underdiagnosed. People are, the suicide rate is raising, overdoses, you keep hearing about overdoses. Addiction is a symptom of these things. And yeah, I'm very, very glad that we can be open in hip hop about it. It used to be taboo,
I was
when
gonna
Biggie
say,
did it,
do
the
you,
suicidal thoughts, and
yeah.
people were talking about it like Tupac here and there, but um I feel like we're at a time where people can express and be vulnerable and be sad. Like Kid Cudi, Drake, 808s and Heartbreaks. I think that is really where it became a mainstream thing to be vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Do you think, like we were just talking about the whole gang life, cocaine rap being glorified? Do you think the whole, because it's not like you see the whole sad boy. I don't want to use that, but like the sad kind of, I don't know, like melancholy sound of hip hop. Do you think that kind of whole, that sort of sound is being glorified almost?
Um,
Like this whole demonic thing that Trippy Red kind of has going, another Ohio native, just thought I'd slip that in there. But like that XXX even too, like that kind of sound when
yeah,
those guys were coming up, it was almost like they were glorifying not, I don't know if glorifying is word, but like they're showing it, like emphasizing the fact that they were that sad. You know what I mean?
But I feel like a lot more people also just related
They
to
did.
that. You
They
know what I'm
did.
saying?
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think it definitely was a thing where it was just a matter of time before somebody was going to really truly express that in a way that everybody could relate to it. Um, I do think that it did glorify mental illness,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because you would talk to somebody and they're like, "Oh, such and such and such, that makes me anxious," and I'm like, that's just like a normal thing. Like,
Mm.
there's things that we're normally anxious about. I think that people just started like kind of being hypochondriac about it, like overthinking it. Like I think when you get to the point where you're thinking about suicide is when you really should get some mental help, and which is what I had to do, in high school. But when you're just like you never really had to go through any of that mental anguish and you're trying to just fit in, it does rub me the wrong way.
Oh yeah. But
But
like,
I do appreciate that people can have a platform to, but then like like these artists get interviewed and they ask them, "Oh, do you really do these drugs? Do you really feel this way?" And some of them are like, "Nah, like I'm okay, I just make
No,
this
that's what
music."
sells.
Yeah, and that is the part that I don't really fuck with, because when you're making art just to monetize it, like you see where those artists end up years down the line, in the grand scheme of music. And I think um that's why I appreciated Mac Miller so much, because you could tell he was living in his truth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and even in his interviews, like he never shied away from the fact that those were very dark times.
word.
Um, and that's really all I, would want from an artist, is to just be honest. Like, if you're rich and you come from that, then just rap about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to be struggling to make great music. You know what I mean? But just living life as a human is a struggle. So,
Facts.
What do you think about the odd complaint about people saying Kanye just raps about how rich he is now? You know what I mean? Like,
nah, I think he just lives in his reality. I mean,
word.
do you expect him to rap about the college dropout shit, having like overdue bills when you making Netflix deals for 30 million? Like, nah, like, but
Yeah,
I love the fact that he never really shied away from the fact that there's real shit going on. Like
facts.
The whole Yeezus era, like, he was very rich, very influential, very much like after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but he was still that kid that was trying to break into fashion. Like he still had that same humbleness and hunger and confidence, even when they were telling him, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. And then you see where he ended up. Um, I appreciate vulnerability, even when you are rich. Like, I don't expect you to rap about being poor if you're rich. Like, rap about what rich people go through. Like, it may be more similarities than we think. You know,
There's a whole other audience for that too, right? Like there's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other rich people out there that would probably love to hear about how Consuelo the maid fucked up their windshield washers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want to. I don't know if you watched like the I Got a Story to Tell documentary, the Biggie one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But in Ready to Die, he was talking about how he was from that album to his next one. He was talking about how his bars kind of switched from the coming from nothing kind of story, switched to what he called the shiesty business, right? That is music. What do you like? What are your run-ins with it? What do you think about the business side of hip hop?
Ooh, I think anytime you mix art with commodity and like marketing, like art, like as a creative, a true creative, you find that you get disappointed like time and time and time again. But at the same time, um, I do appreciate this independent wave that people can be on. The emphasis on owning your masters.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like it's funny that you say that, because P. Diddy made a tweet about that,
I
like
saw that. Yeah.
how capitalism and shady business owners, but it's like he was kind of talking about himself. Like,
Yeah, like that's
the
the
whole
pot calling the
notion.
kettle black, right?
Oh yeah, man, That's like, how can you be that unself-aware, you know? But
That's jokes.
but yeah, because even Biggie like had problems with his finances,
Oh yeah.
like an artist like Tupac we thought was making millions, died with little to nothing to show for all those hit records. Like,
Fuck Suge Knight.
like, but I think that we're very much at a time where the power is in the artist's hands. Like, we've seen people create their own movements online and, you know, get rich off of what they create, and they can keep all that money. You know what I'm saying? We have managers that are truly interested in preserving that independent nature of the artist. And back then, if the music business in general was very much like a pimp and hoe dynamic, like, you're gonna
Yeah.
make these records for us and we're gonna pay you what we think that you should get, even though you're making us billions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? I
Um,
think, yeah, I think it's a beautiful time for independence.
Definitely. And Kanye was also a huge factor to that, when he
Oh yeah,
went on
because
that rage.
Rockefeller didn't do shit for him at first. He was lucky
Mm.
that he was a sought after producer to pay for these videos and to pay for, his accident medical bills. Like, you signed to a label, you thinking that you getting all those benefits, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, like, they'll put you on the shelf if they feel like they don't want to put
If
you
they
out.
don't need you, yeah.
even
And
still
I
though,
think,
like, sorry,
yeah,
I was just gonna
like,
say like, oh, shit. You go first. You go first.
I just think it's beautiful now because we see artists who have got shelved, like a Kanye or a Hobson, who had records with so much potential that got shunned, and then when they put it out themselves, it's like they like proved everyone wrong. They proved that that like a lot of these business owners don't know what they're talking about. They're not tapped into the music culture, especially with hip hop. Like, a lot of these A&Rs don't know what they're talking about,
Mm.
and it shows. Like, but it's so powerful now that you could take that power back. Like, Freddie Gibbs got shelved. We would have never known about him back then, but
Right.
the independent route helped us to get to him. So it's such a beautiful thing, man.
I
I
think,
don't know what I would do without it.
yeah,
Right.
rather though. I was just gonna say, I was just watching like something that academics said, and it was like Meek Mill tried to sign Pressa for like 20 grand and like make him pay for like a leased Rolls Royce. Like, so like that kind of business side is still there. Like it's not
Oh
completely
yeah.
lost. But how do
Oh,
you
yeah.
think that? How do you think we really usher that out? Like, how do we really put all of the power in the artist's hand?
Education. I think when you educate people on how the music business is and how it works, um, you realize that you give you give the label a lot of credit. Granted, you need like labels for like publishing and getting reach,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's really as far as it should go. Um, because if you come into the game with your own movement and they see that, they're gonna want to capitalize off that, and then you get the ass end of the deal. But if you take it into your own hands, it's like, you know, like, I think, just educating people on what they can do to own their masters, like how to keep their masters, how to keep their soul basically, and not sign your soul on a dotted line for this fake dream that they sell you. I think that is And I think that's what's happening a lot more now. And being a producer who wants to produce for mainstream artists, I definitely have to make sure my publishing is intact. I got my ass cap, my BMI, my royalties, because I don't want to be getting the ass end of a deal
Definitely.
when I'm making an artist go platinum and I can't feed my family. You know what I'm saying? I refuse to let that happen.
It's a
Definitely.
scary thought too, man.
Yeah, man. And it's a common thing. It's more common than we realize.
Yeah, especially with producers, they get snubbed a lot with that shit.
Oh yeah, man. Producers, sound engineers, like, we are what makes songs, but
Right.
a lot of the time we're not in the like we're not in the feature list, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude.
That's why I love like how artists like David Guetta or like DJ Mustard have their
Mm,
own brand, to
yeah,
where
true.
they say, I got my own shit. You come to me for my specific vibe. You know what I'm saying? And I can make an album getting all these artists together as an artist myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like what DJ Khaled does.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
say.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
that's kind of cool because I just want to ask about your method in how you're kind of going about doing this, because on Apple Music you don't have like much of a discography there at all. You've got all of your stuff on Bandcamp. Your stuff's on SoundCloud as well.
Mhm.
Um, but I just want to ask on the topic of collaborations. Like, why are you not putting stuff out on these platforms of art of songs that you produce for artists? Like, are you big into the collaboration game, or what is it?
That's a very, very good question. I think a lot of it comes down to timing. Um, I'll have records on the shelf for artists, and you know, they won't release it until like a year later, or
Mhm.
it takes time for music to come out. But also, just on a personal artist level, I just really feel like I haven't made my debut album yet. You know, I have albums that I have in mind, but I think I'm really waiting for the resources to do it on an official level, because the music is more important to me than just releasing it on Apple and then like it not getting much attention. Like I really want to carefully plan it out, like months ahead. Um,
You don't think an album, like an actual full length album or project with other artists, or one or multiple other artists, would put you kind of in that sphere?
yes, and that's definitely a goal of mine. So like when I say like I got work with Mavi, I have worked with Zeke, I've worked with all these artists that I come in contact with that I could build relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's definitely shit that I haven't took. Like being a DJ as well. I can't wait till we get out of this quarantine because I'm going to be playing like a lot of shit that I produce actually for artists. Um, it's just like when you're a producer, you're basically not on your time. You're on an artist's time. And some records they keep for themselves until you understand that they don't want to put it out themselves. And then that's when I could be like, all right, I'm gonna put this on my album or whatever, as my project. But it's kind of like the Mad Villainy 2 thing. Like, Madlib had it ready to go, but it was basically Doom's time. Like he had to when you do collaborations, it can't be so one-minded. Like you have to come to like mutual agreements on how things are going to be released. So that's definitely a big factor, and that's kind of one of the downsides, I would say, because being a artist who makes music like like an addict, like it's kind of discouraging to have shit on the shelf and you just keep making shit and you're like, damn, when is this coming out? Like,
Your favorite shit, like
having
you
shit.
recorded a couple months ago, but it's just
Yeah.
now never comes to light.
Yeah, I think that could be definitely discouraging. But at the same time, I create different opportunities by making so much, so I don't get caught up in what could be or what isn't. My mind is always just like, what can I do going forward?
As it should be. Um, I want to. Okay, so that kind of explains your whole philosophy on major streaming platforms. I want to ask now just about your philosophy with social media, because that's almost as like gritty as your laptop, bro. Like, also that thing is filthy.
Your laptop's
laptop
gross,
is filthy, bro. Like that thing is wild. But on social
That's the one that I had from high school. I smoked so
Word.
many blunts over it.
I was gonna say, I feel like you rolled like the stickiest joints ever, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
my hands are so sticky. Let's go just touch my computer now.
Yeah,
Like,
it's jokes. Like
That's definitely what happened. That's definitely
we see the video, you showing the beat you make it on your laptop, it's hella dirty, then you move the camera a bit, we see this nice clean MacBook in the back, like not touching that one, not making the same mistake with that one.
yeah, because when you get the white ones, you gotta be careful, man.
Definitely, man, definitely. Yo, but just back to your music, even I just want to know.
Hold on, I just want to ask a finished question about social media. Just on social media, you
Oh yeah.
you post a lot on Instagram, like on Twitter, you're very active. What's your whole what's your idea about just using social media as an artist?
Gift and a curse. Gift because, like I say, I don't know where I would be in my life without it. You know, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. We're not a very fast-paced city. People who are from Ohio definitely had to move to get it popping. So like I look at Cuddy like that. Like he came up in a time where like 2004. So like you had MySpace, but there really wasn't no artist popping off on social media like that. So we had to move physically. And I think that would have been harder for me to do than to be, you know, at home in my city, just doing this and being able to have that reach. That's definitely a blessing. It's definitely a blessing that, you know, that when you're a talented artist, you could really build your own movement. It's a curse because um, just social media in general, bad news and fake news, especially about celebrities and artists, it travels so fast. Like people thought DMX died before he really died.
Yeah, that was
That's
nuts.
toxic. You know what I'm saying? That's just so wrong. You know, in that aspect, I hate social media. Also, comparing your journey to other artists, like I did that in the beginning. Like, um, you know, why am I not as popping as him? You know, I'm more talented than him on an objective level. Like, why am I not getting this connection? Um, it could drive a lot of kids crazy, really anxious, impatient. It could make you devalue your self-worth. Um, and those are the negative aspects that I've had to deal with. Just personally with social media as an artist, you know, you're not getting as much traction. So you thinking that you're not as much of a real artist as somebody who is, you know, um, just that comparison just steals the joy out of all this shit. And I think social media contributes to that.
What was your question?
Wait, no, and just back to your music. You said you're a DJ. I see you use FL. I just wanted to also quickly ask before my main question, FL or Ableton?
Um,
Because I know you like to produce. I
FL
mean, you're
and
a
Logic.
DJ too, so Ableton's good for DJing, right?
Yeah. I think it's just I never could get into the workflow of Ableton. I started off doing FL and Logic, like GarageBand.
Right.
So like I like to do it like piece by piece. I'm not sure, like I've walked into Ableton and there's so many questions I have of like
Yeah, I feel that.
the warp, like the warp mode, BPM warping that fucked me up, session mode fucked me up. So like for my steez, I use Serato for my DJing. And as far as music, I stick to FL and Logic, but I do want to learn Ableton definitely because it definitely looks like um, something that like I could make a lot of magic on. Definitely.
Right, right, definitely. And just my main question was, just what's
Mhm.
the process when KwanLi makes a beat? What's the first thing we do? You know,
Smoke a joint.
like.
Yeah, smoking, man. Smoking weed, listening to music, just living life. I get a lot of inspiration from life. So when I get inspired by music to make music, I just run with the feeling that music gives me and try to recreate that in my own expression. So that may be like I may make something from scratch, you know. I do play keys, or I may make like I listen to a lot of music. So my range of what to sample is like so broad, it's so crazy. Like I'll probably never run out of shit to sample. So that is definitely like just listening to samples that way. Um Sometimes I do like the whole movie watching method when I'm listening to samples to get the vibe and get like, you know, what I want to get across. Just like real sci-fi type movies. Yeah, it's a really weird process, I would say.
Right, it's always
But
different.
I make shit really, really quick. I don't like to dwell on one idea for long because it's like it's so much sounds and so much stuff to make, and we have so little time as human beings. I try to get in as much as I can. Like when I'm working, like I'm working, like it's so serious. Like you know, it's truly something that like, you know, the process is really beautiful, I would say. It's definitely divine, it's definitely meditative.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
And it's
Therapy.
unique every time. Right? Like you don't have a certain set of rules that you follow every time you sit down. But
Oh no, definitely not, man. Definitely not. Like the flips are even crazy. I may play keys over a flip and add drums, or put it over beats I already have, or put them over samples and add drums. You know, the process is just, you know, however I feel at the time, I would say.
And how did you learn to do all this? Did you grow up learning music? Did you just YouTube video it?
you self-taught.
Self-taught it?
Self-taught myself a lot. I went on YouTube to like, I started off just covering like songs of mine, like my favorite songs. And during that, I learned how chords work. I learned how scales work. I learned how progressions work. Um, so I incorporate that when I create, like when I sit down and play and create things. I would say being in church a lot helped me. Just growing up in a musical family. My mom and dad listened to a lot. Like my mom was Erica Badu, Jill Scott, and my dad was like everything you could think of, and that all influenced me. Um, yeah, man, it's kind of crazy looking back. Just being self-taught, like I can't read music at all, but I know what sounds good, you know.
I was gonna
Yeah.
So I
say I
know.
like that clip Kurt Cobain talking just about
Yeah.
how he doesn't know major minor
Yeah.
chords, right? I was gonna ask if that's kind of your philosophy, but you just answered it right there. Just not really knowing what you're doing, but just knowing what you want to get out of it, right?
Mhm.
So would you
That's
say that
definitely.
just came from consistency? Because like how my biggest baffle is like how do you do it without like not knowing music theory almost? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, definitely consistency. I truly believe that creativity is just a muscle that we all can flex. It's a muscle that we can train ourselves to be creative in a certain field, and we can train ourselves to be better if we're driven enough, if we're, you know, focused enough. So yeah, I just had that self-determination. Like I don't like to think that there's anything that I can't do myself. Um, because, you know, I think that as humans we're very capable of a lot of things, and if someone else can do it, then I could do it. I just apply that to my life. Like, you know, even with music, like I think my first beats were like super duper trash, like, but I still sell a lot of those high school beats. But I think it's just a progression of, you know, I think it's just progression, definitely. Like just wanting to adapt new techniques, you know.
it also baffles me how simple a track can be. Like it can be like
Yeah.
three tracks, like three channels. You know what I mean? And just
Uh-huh.
drums and two sounds. I'm like, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah. And you can create an entire emotion behind that. You can change the way someone thinks just with that, just with words, just with rhythm.
Mm.
Um, it's almost like hypnotizing. Like music is rhythmic. It's uh it's kind of trance like at times, you know, it's kind of hypnotizing a little bit. um it's really it's really mystical, man. It's like I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I think
Yeah.
it's definitely something that's
I
bigger
think
than us.
everyone gets that. You know, it's like that feeling music gives you. You know, when you listen to your favorite song, it's different for everyone, but everyone knows how it feels, right?
Yeah,
Alrighty,
especially everyone's creative, man. Definitely.
facts. Alrighty, we're just about out of time here, but just before we do, one last question, man. Who are you doing this for?
Man, I'm doing this for my family, myself, and my state and my city. You know, definitely trying to bring back a culture, a music culture to Ohio. You know, put my family in a better situation and be better for those around me, and also to spread a healing feeling to people, good vibes, good energy, feeling of self empowerment, confidence, inspiration. You know, I want to inspire people to, like, no matter what circumstances you go through, you can keep focused and you could really achieve things you never thought. You know, that's my whole thing. Like, just inspiration. You know, in a
Beautiful,
very
man.
positive way.
You inspire me to make beats, bro. Like you are, I'm a true fan of you, KwanLi.
Both of us, bro.
That's humbling, man. That's very humbling, man. I thank you both, man.
Thank you, dude. Where can people find you? One last thing. Where can people find you?
KwanLi Beats, quote, KwanLi_Beats across all social platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. The brand is really consistent. So you can find that at KwanLi_Beats, KWANLI, anywhere. SoundCloud, Bandcamp, anywhere you find music.
There we go. Alrighty. Thank you, man. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Peace out. Catch you next week.
Get down, stay down. To the beat.